What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, is Robert DeFelice. What's up, Rob?
Yes, and it is a pleasure coming to you live from AOL Chat.
Yeah, I gotta check my connection. It might crap out in the middle of this. Depends on phone calls and some other kind of things that are happening in that era.
You gotta pick one of the phone numbers in the third or fourth range. You know, when they give you the numbers to dial up, you don't always want to pick the first one because those get flooded.
You know, maybe the trick is that I gotta get one of those little discs that I was like the free AOL trial. Maybe that can work better.
I think I've got a spare. I'll have to run over to your house.
The blue light Kmart special thing or something. Oh, if you don't know what this is all about, we're talking about NXT TakeOver in Your House, which just ended a few moments ago. And of course, this is lots of nostalgia. They even referenced a lot of these things throughout the night. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all the matches that went down, the positives, the negatives, the pros, the cons, all the other kind of things that go along with that. Give you the full results of all the matches and just kind of, shoot the shit and talk about whatever else we want to talk about. So we invite you to do the same
boys
thing.
And girls. This is going to be a nostalgia-heavy, pun-heavy edition of Smack Talk.
With some good and some bad. We both have moments of this that we like. We have things that we loved, and we have things that we really didn't like at all. So we're going to run the gamut with this one. And we invite you to do the same thing. So drop a comment below. Tell us what you think. Well, tell us what your response is to what we think and all that. And obviously, if you're on a platform that does not have a comment section on it, like Spotify or Stitcher or Apple or Google Podcasts or something like that, head on over to either the page on smarkoutmoment.com, send a tweet at smarkoutmoment, post something on the Facebook on facebook.com/smarkoutmoment, or the best thing, which is to leave a comment on the YouTube page, because the YouTube video itself, that helps out with the algorithm, as does hitting the like button on the video. And if you're there, you should also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already, and ring that little notification bell so that way you know when these videos get posted and when we go live and anything else that you should be notified about. It's kind of the whole point of the notification thing. Notifications. That's how it works. Let's go through this just from the very start, I guess, with pre-show. I don't think that the pre-show itself has anything really interesting to talk about, but
except that it opened with Todd Pettengill. And there was a fluttering moment in my life where I got sad because I thought, oh my God, 15 seconds at the very start of the pre-show is all we're going to get is Todd Pettengill.
That's kind of what I thought too. And I was worried that that might be the highlight, and then might be downhill from that, because then it was Scott Stanford, Sam Roberts, and Pat McAfee via like a Skype or Zoom or something like that. And they were just doing the usual thing that they've been doing lately, where it's, obviously they're in the middle of the Stanford set. It's the fake green screen background, and just going over the card. Nothing special, but then again, it's a half an hour. It's not that hard to digest that when it's not the full hour-long thing. I have no notes as far as the pre-show other than that, but then we got into the actual beginning of the show, which that one I do have some notes for, which was the parody of the old WWE intro with the, for over 50 years, the revolutionary force in sports entertainment. And they said it was NXT for over 5 years or whatever. I thought that was great. They had the old production music that bum, 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 bum.
And you'll know this if you go back and watch our fan odds table. They ripped literally the first intro for the In Your House right down to Charlotte Flair is opening the door to 2 unwanted guests instead of it being Bret Hart, who wrestled twice. It was Charlotte Flair. I laughed out loud. I had more fun in the opening 5 minutes of this show than I have in the last 3 months.
I can't say the full opening 5 minutes, though. Because after they got done the intro, then it becomes Code Orange, and I am not a fan of Screamo stuff. The song itself's not that bad once you cut out the parts where it's just...
So awful. I forgot that there was people there, and I was like, I know they didn't bring in a band to play in front of nobody. I had completely forgotten that there was people. And the song was what it was, but just to have that on top of the full reveal that the house set was back. I was on cloud 9 for the entire opening of this show.
Big fan of the house being back. That's one of, if not the biggest highlight that I have for this entire thing.
You know what? I'm just going to get it right out of the way right now. I kept looking at the apron, and I'm like, yeah, that's the logo. That's what they always do. And then I realized, no, for like the last 5 years or whatever, they've been doing the LED boards. It was so nice to just have an apron, and it just had the In Your House logo on it. And aesthetically, this show gave me everything I wanted. 5 stars, can't complain about a single thing aesthetically. Gave me everything I wanted.
You talk about the results, though.
Well,
yeah. Then we start getting into some other things.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to just knock out all the nostalgia bits right off the bat, or do we go in chronological order as they sprinkled them throughout the show?
Let's kind of bounce around, go straight to the nostalgia, then we'll come backward.
All right. So we had William Regal filling in for Lord Alfred Hayes, may he rest in peace, with the promotional consideration paid for by the following. They did 2 commercials for the ice cream bars, which my mother got so nostalgic for and demanded that I buy a box and send it to my brother.
Even though they're still not the same thing.
They're not the same thing, but I mean, like,
I'm gonna try them. Like,
I want to try them so bad. But, like, that worked for the audience it was supposed to, because, like, my mother just had total flashbacks to raising my brother and him loving the ice cream bars.
I loved those ice cream bars back in the day.
Much better with the cookie in the middle.
Yeah. Or you dipped it in the chocolate and all that. Like, that, I'm sure it's not gonna match up to it, but at the same time.
Wafers. But it's a good door open to renew a relationship with good humor.
Yeah.
To make more things. I marked out so heavy for the Ico Pro commercial. I loved Adam Cole doing a spot for Ico Pro. I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah.
Todd Pettengill comes back in the middle of the show, and in another moment where I laugh out loud, he's plugging the merchandise, and he goes, "Call 1-900." What? Excuse me, I'm being informed that technology has wiped out 1-900 numbers like the majority of my workload. Oh, did he say workload or
wardrobe?
I thought oh my god!
They had Shawn Michaels backstage with Triple H and Road Dogg, all not knowing how to work the computer, which, like, Shawn Michaels had done that back in the day.
Yeah, and
pretending not to get to understand how the computer worked.
It was like a Windows 98 computer too.
Yeah,
like
that big grayish block kind of thing. That was great. But that gave me a weird feeling, though, because I actually said out loud, I'm like, my God, they look old.
Shawn, more than the other two, looks ridiculous. But we've never seen him with a Santa Claus beard that he's now growing for some reason.
That hit me in the wrong way, though. That was like, nostalgia's great, but oh my God, no way, they can't be that old.
Yeah, they're looking their age.
I will say, though, at the very, very least, the one that stood out to me from the sandwich side of things was Bronson Reed when he was eating his. I was like, okay, that does look really good. Like, it was just the perfect level of melty. So
they did another one where I swear they said it was a cookie, where they said it was like a cookie sandwich. I don't know if they were trying to just find a different way to plug it, but I thought Bronson Reed's looked good. Dio Madden ate it in one bite, and I was like, is it really that good? And then there was Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs, and I enjoyed that. He was very into his ice cream sandwich.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that. All of the nostalgia stuff, thumbs up when it comes to that. Thumbs up for the first match, too. It was the 6-woman tag team match. Mia Yim, Shotzi Blackheart, and Tegan Nox beat Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. Wasn't really the most, like, memorable thing in the world, but, yeah, it was a good opener. I liked it.
This is what openers used to be. Do you remember? Like, before every opener had to be, like, one of the main event matches? Yeah, that's what openers were at one point. They were just like, all right, this is a fun match to kick off the action. I loved it. Had no complaints here. Although, no, I take that back. One complaint. Why does it seem like they're already trying to tease tension between Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez?
I was going to say, I'm surprised that you're not annoyed about that, but there you go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they did just get together, right?
They got together right at
the last takeover.
No, it couldn't have been that one, right?
Well, I'm not counting. Okay, I guess if you want to count the fact that technically Takeover Tampa took place across 2 NXT episodes, but no, the last official takeover was in February, and that's when they got together.
That was oh yeah, Dakota Kai beat Tegan Knox in a street fight. That's what it was. So yeah, that was February.
I'm like, why are they already teasing this? Like, what the fuck? This is the perfect women's tag team. Like, you need them right now.
Yeah. I didn't think it was that. I thought it was like maybe like December or so, but I mean that's not that big of a difference, but still it's still pretty quick for that. So unless they're gonna drag that out, hopefully not as long as Bayley and Sasha Banks, then it seems like they're kind of breaking them up. At least that was intriguing though, because they spent a lot of time having miscommunication. So yeah, it's an interesting part of the match, and the match itself was solid. So really, no complaints other than the potential that they might break up that team and have nothing for them to do.
I like Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart. Put them as a tag team. Put them on Raw. Put them on SmackDown. Let's go. Let's get this women's tag division fired up. If you're gonna insist on having the belts, do something with them. And I like what this team brought to the dance.
Then we had Finn Balor against Damian Priest.
My favorite Damian Priest match so far.
I liked it a lot. I thought that they both looked really strong. I thought Priest looked really good. He looked thinner too. They mentioned that he had lost 100 pounds, and I'm like, you know what? Did he lose some of that like recently? Because he looked a lot thinner than I could remember, but he looked like thinner in a good way, like lean, not like, oh, he's like losing weight and there's a problem or something like that. But he moved around really well. You know, he had like his kicks were pretty clean, and he's doing the Razor's Edge now, which is great. I don't remember him doing that before at the very least, and I'm always been a big fan of that move, so I like that a lot. This is the match, though, I noticed that we were hearing a lot of, like, echoing. It happened throughout the whole night, but in particular, like, the referee said, 6 minutes, guys, at 7:35. Match ended, 7:39. So, not quite 6 minutes, but the audio was a little bit weird tonight. And this is when I first noticed it.
A lot of that.
Every time that the bell rang, it echoed a little bit. Every time that the announcement was going on of like, you know, like whatever this match was, whatever, like anything that the announcer had said, I think it was Alicia Taylor. Anything that she had said, yep, echo. Had some echo for like the beginning of Rhea Ripley's theme, stuff like that. But I did like the thud of Priest falling down on the steps. That didn't get an echo, but I liked it.
And it was a very simple shot too, and it looked like a simple bump compared to what we're used to. But
effective.
Yeah, like it just worked. Like, okay, he hit the steps. He's hurt.
I liked the fake crowd. With, I guess they're a real crowd, but you know what I mean. Singing along as Priest's theme.
They're like, they were
kind of thing.
I wonder if they're like trying to be like, all right, you know, try to emulate the silliness of a real crowd, because like they were doing soccer chants and everything.
They were chanting "Holy shit."
They did chant "Holy shit."
They chanted "Holy shit." They chanted "Johnny sucks" to the theme of the Imperial March, which I thought was great. And they had a lot more fun for this than they did, and it's odd because they started at 8:30 in the morning. Like, I would have thought they would have been out of energy by now.
I believe that's from Fightful, right?
I think so. 8:30 in the morning, go through Backlash, then record this.
Yep, that is from Fightful Select, and yeah, they should have been out of energy, but to be fair, you know,
maybe Nikki Kross bought them some more pizza, and maybe that's what was great about it. Or maybe they gave them all the maybe they gave them all the ice cream bars.
Maybe it was the Ica Pro.
Could have been that too, yeah. But I like this. I like overall pretty much everything that went down in this match. I would have preferred if Priest would have won, but at the same time, I don't mind Balor winning because he is the veteran, and it's not like Priest got squashed, unlike some other things later on. But yeah, I liked it.
Tell me how you feel.
Yeah, I'm not going to have too hot of a take for that one, though. It might seem like it, but we're not heading in that direction.
Balor, I like seeing Balor win. I haven't seen. Remember, call back to what I said on the predictions podcast. I watch AEW on Wednesday nights, and I don't watch nearly as much NXT, so I was very disconnected with everything going on, and I was a little like disconnected with Balor in general because the bulk of what I've seen from him has been main roster stuff, and it just wasn't great. So this was a nice reminder of, oh yeah, he's doing the Prince stuff. He's, got that edge to him again, and it's exciting.
Not as much as Raw does. Raw's definitely got the edge.
Raw's got much more edge these days.
Yeah, I still don't quite understand, though, whether or not Balor's supposed to be a babyface. Kind of assuming that he is, but they really didn't make a full transition for that, so that's a little strange. But
you know what, though? You're gonna need some baby faces.
Yeah, that's for sure. Really quickly, we're just gonna throw some plugs out here in the middle of this, because oddly enough, there's only like a couple more matches left to talk about. One of them being the Patreon. Patreon.com/SmarkAtMoment works the same way that any other Patreon works, where you toss your spare change towards us, and it helps us keep the lights on and helps the channel grow and make sure that I got the time to be able to dedicate to different things and stuff. So, whether it's $1 or up, all that stuff's greatly appreciated. $10 and up gives you access to the Patreon exclusive episodes, which includes the Dark Casts, and will eventually include the one and only podcast that we'll do for the Sexiest Superstars tournament, which is currently going on right now. So go ahead and vote on the first part of the qualifying round, where you get to determine who goes into round 2 of the qualifying round. Of course, that's how, round 1, round 2, that's how that works. But this is essentially the breakdown where you take all the people who weren't yet in the tournament last year or didn't make it into the bracket last year, and you determine the extra amount of people to try to make the top 64, kind of combine them with the people who were in the tournament last year and didn't get released from WWE. And then we'll kind of roll along and do that. So, you get to vote on people like Scarlett, for instance, who didn't get a chance to be in the tournament last year because she just joined the company afterward. And some people that maybe you think should get a boost this time around and make it into that top 32. Vote while you can, and as I said, Patreon exclusive podcast that we will do about that once the tournament's wrapped up. But if you want to make sure that we do some other types of content, there is also the Pick Your Poison tier, where you can specifically request some kind of a special feature or some kind of a gimmick of sorts. And you can do the same thing for fanboysanonymous.com, which is the geek culture website that talks about movie reviews and some other things like that. And, I want to do plenty of more content with that site. And the only way to make sure that I can is to make sure I've got the time to be able to do it. And the more that gets Patreon donations and more love and support on that channel and on that website, then the more that I can dedicate that time. So follow that Facebook and Twitter account, subscribe to the Fanboys Anonymous YouTube channel, hit up that Patreon, and do the same thing for Smark at Moment.
Check the AOL hyperlink, and
I believe, AOL keywords, Mark.
That's right, and you might even get to chat up with us in a chat room. You never know.
One of those AOL chats where we'll just say ASL. Let's go over to the North American Championship match. Keith Lee defending the title successfully against Johnny Gargano. Gargano came out wearing something inspired by The Mandalorian, which took me a little bit to understand. At first, I was just like, I'm not quite getting the character. And after a little bit, I was just like, okay. So, big fan of that. His TakeOver outfits are usually pretty cool, so this is another one in the long-running collection of that. And they had a great entrance for him, too, with him locking the door with the key and calling back to the last episode of NXT where he had used his key on Keith Lee. I like that quite a bit.
My favorite thing about this is I'm in the WrestleZone chat, and they said somebody's going through the door, and I just went, Johnny's going to go through the door, because Johnny is a fucking nerd. And, like, of course, if he can't jump off the roof like Sean, he's going to want to go through the door. And sure enough, Johnny walked right through the door. Amazing.
Gargano is all of us when it comes to those kind of things.
He really is. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. They had the whole spot with Keith Lee body checking Gargano through the plexiglass. That was fun.
Yeah.
Good false finish.
Quite a few of them.
Specifically the one with Miriam and Candice LeRae start fighting. The referee gets distracted. Gargano uses the keys, and that could have been the end, but it wasn't.
Yeah, well, when he hit him with like 5 super kicks, I started to think, okay, I'm thinking one of them puts him down, and they can say Keith Lee was robbed and move forward with Keith Lee being world champion.
Right.
But I do want to shout out Keith Lee for the gear, the Black Lives Matter gear. I thought that was very, very cool.
Thumbs up for that too, yeah.
Kudos to him for doing that. I love this match. This is one of those ones where I have no problem in the match front as of yet.
Yeah, really good match. My favorite of the night, by far. I never noticed before until this that when Keith Lee wins his matches with his finisher, the Big Bang Catastrophe, that if you type it out as Keith Lee wins with a BBC, that it doesn't come out the right way. And I hope that that was planned, because that's amazing if that's planned. So kudos for that too. I
was not expecting that.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either until I typed it out. And then I'm like, wait, Then I'm like, you know what? If that was his idea, Keith Lee is even cooler in my book, you know?
Bask in his glory.
Yeah, it's limitless. Let's ask Miriam. Great match though, and that got me a little bit confused, but it also got me going, okay, Adam Cole retains. Like, at that point, I'm like, Velveteen Dream's not winning that.
So, more than that, more of this. The next match was...
well, that's the thing. I'm thinking, okay, Adam Cole retains in a little bit. Then it becomes, that's the next match.
And I started to realize midway through the show, I'm like, wait a minute. They're showing the women, like the women are going to headline. And sure enough, the women would go on to headline.
Which may or may not have been a mistake in some ways. And sometimes,
we'll get there.
You know, we'll explain that in a little bit. But the Backlot Brawl match happened next. Adam Cole retaining against Velveteen Dream in a match that I think we kind of alluded to before did not fit these two at all.
While it didn't fit them, I liked the match a lot more than I thought I was going to.
I can't quite say the same. Here's something I have a question about, though. I mean, I don't watch Walking Dead, and I didn't even get the Negan reference at first.
You didn't get the Negan reference?
No, I didn't. I was thinking Warriors. The Can You Dig It guy. I can't remember the character's name. And I was just like, nah, that doesn't really look quite like that. And then Caroline cleared it up for me and said Negan. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So I don't watch Walking Dead, but is there any kind of connection between Negan and Cars?
No, not that I know. To be frank, I don't watch a lot of The Walking Dead, but I've seen some episodes.
Well, that's if you're frank. But to be Rob, what do you think?
My immediate thought was, is this dude like one of the outsiders? Like, you know, when I say outsiders, I mean Ponyboy.
Like Johnny
outsiders.
Cake.
Yeah, like no. And then I saw the bat. And when I saw the bat, I said, oh, he's Negan. Okay, why? So halfway through this match, I'm like, hold on a minute. They didn't put this match on in the middle of the card for Dream to win the belt wearing street clothes. After all the flashy entrances he's had, I don't see that happening. But then they had good spots. Like Adam Cole falls through the hood of a car. And I'm thinking, oh, well, wait a minute. You know, Undisputed Era came. They got carried away in a trunk by Dexter Lumis. Amazing.
The tortured artist, as they are calling him now, apparently.
They're calling him that. And then I'm like, all right, Dream Valley Driver. Okay, kick out. He does the Purple Rainmaker as Adam Cole is in a seated position in a chair, right?
That was awkward.
And I go, that was kind of lame.
Yeah.
But it's a finish. So if he wins, he wins. And he kicks out, and I said, Adam Cole's returning the title. And sure enough, we get a Panama City Sunrise into a clusterfuck pile of chairs. And Adam Cole retains, and I just went, who is going to beat this guy?
Well, before I answer that question, I have a question to pose to you. Between Braun Strowman's car and the cars that they did with this, how many people do you think they could have kept on payroll if they wouldn't have done this?
Especially with the cars that they did for this.
Yeah.
Quite a...
But I don't know that answer, and I don't know the answer about who's next for Cole, because the only thing I can think of is that they position Cole as a babyface and he loses to Karrion Kross.
So we have 3 more options before we get there. There's Loomis.
I can't imagine Loomis being next.
I'll explain all 3 of them. There's Loomis, there's Balor, and there is Keith Lee. Now, Loomis I only bring up because Road Dogg said on the After the Bell podcast that they are already considering him a main event picture guy.
That's so strange, though. I like Dexter Loomis. Don't get me wrong. I actually, for a while,
loves the character. I think
I've been a big fan of the Loomis gimmick and character since he did the Breakout tournament. Like, he popped up, and I was like, "Oh wow, Samuel Shaw, who I was making fun of before, is good, cool." And then he just disappeared for an entire year, and I kept saying for months and months, I was like, "Where did this guy go? Why are they not pushing this guy?" And since they started pushing him, like, he's cool, I like him and all that, but it's weird to jump straight to main eventer with him. I don't think that that's quite the level that he's at. Like, to me, if he were fighting for the North American title, okay, but I can't picture him being the one that beats Cole.
It's very clear that he is a stopgap between what Adam Cole is doing right now with the Velveteen Dream, because Dream cannot get another shot as long as Cole is champion, and I don't see Dream hanging around NXT anymore. I have to imagine the Raw after Backlash, Dream appears. I have to.
And that's what's making me a little bit nervous is if they bring Dream up to Raw or SmackDown and they bring up Dijakovic, they're going to run out of spots for people.
Yeah.
I'd rather them at that point keep Dijakovic on NXT and maybe have him be the guy that beats Adam Cole.
So now I want to get into a little bit of what I don't like right now. And it's inevitable with current circumstances. I know, I understand that. But now I'm starting to think you're cheating the fans. If you call up Dream right now, you cheated the NXT fans out of a farewell to Dream. You've already cheated the fans out of a farewell to Matt Riddle in that environment. You've already cheated the fans out of a farewell to, you know, quite a few other superstars like Chelsea Green. And I'm getting that feeling now that, like, okay, I understand the show must go on, but think about the audience, because, like, that's a big moment, and that's not fair that, you know, Dream's NXT exit and main roster debut might not even be on TV.
I feel like that's just WWE doing their typical thing of just get the fuck over it, you know? Because we're going to get to something a bit later on that feels very much in that regard to me.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's just, oh, well, we did it. Shut up. Get over it. Move on to the next thing. They don't like to dwell on their mistakes. And I think that they think that everybody else will just forgive them and move on too.
But
so,
at least
I see where you're coming from, but I feel like they look at that as like, who cares, you know?
I just think like the NXT universe is so, like, it's such a key part of the show that, like, to me, that feels like you're just cheating the fans.
I think it would have been a little bit cheating the fans, though, if Dream would have won, too.
Yeah, but that's why, like, this would have been a great place to do, like, an 8-man tag. You know what I mean? Like, you could still do compelling shows
Yeah.
without, like, doing these main things.
This could have been a backlot brawl match of Velveteen Dream and Dexter Lumis and whoever
2 other
against
guys.
Cole and Strong and Fish.
Yeah.
I don't know who
I
that
don't
other
know.
person would have been on Dream's team, but like, you know,
Yeah,
the Dream Team against the Undisputed Era, like, why not?
it could have literally been Keith Lee or Balor. Especially
Dijakovic
Balor.
or, you know, who else we got in NXT that could have fit the bill?
Yeah,
Like,
Dijak. Fuck,
they,
it could have been Drake Maverick. You could have fucking done anything. Let's listen. Stop that. They could have done anything. As we've seen in this show alone, they do whatever they want.
yeah, it could have been Phantasma. It could have been whoever.
Like, just literally anybody.
But instead, they went in that direction, so now we have to wonder what are their plans going forward. But at least it's a good sign that Adam Cole is going to be sticking around for like quite a while and not just going up to the main roster and having nowhere to go. That's one thing. Then we had a 6-minute, basically squash match between Karrion Kross and Tommaso Ciampa. Kross won by submission, or, well, Ciampa didn't submit, he just passed out. But pretty much just a total squash.
Not a fan.
I'm okay with it. Because Kross looks like a beast. And in the long run, that's going to help him out a lot more than it will hurt Ciampa.
So I think, in my opinion, the Gargano, Ciampa, Dream, Adam Cole, you know, those core guys, it's starting to finally feel like they've almost exhausted them to where it's like, all right, well, if you're done with Ciampa Gargano and you're done with Ciampa going for the belt, maybe just bring him over or up or whatever direction you want to call it.
Did we get Ciampa Balor?
No, actually, I don't think we did.
If we did, it might have been just been on a random episode of NXT, but the Balor thing's weird, because if Balor's a babyface right now, they're really not trying to play into that all that much. And if Balor's the next one that beats Cole, that would make sense to a certain extent. But then, you know, he could have another match with Gargano. I kind of feel this is maybe with the direction that they're going. Maybe Balor's the one that beats Cole, and Kross is the one that beats Balor. And in the meantime, maybe Ciampa gets a match with Balor, and maybe Ciampa turns heel or something like that. I don't know, but at the very least, their goal here was to make Kross look strong, and they pulled that off.
I don't want to see Ciampa turn heel. He just fucking turned. He just turned face. Gargano's heel. I want them to do with Ciampa and Gargano what they couldn't manage to do with Owens and Zayn for like the first 3 years, and that's keep them apart.
You mean feuding and tag team, or one way or the other?
I mean, just keep them, like, no feuding, no tag team. Just let them be separate for a while.
Well, eventually, Ciampa and Kross are going to have another match, I'm assuming. Probably some kind of gimmick. But at least for this, Kross looks strong, and I'm not opposed to that.
It's a weird question, and I know I keep bringing up people jumping to the main roster, but do you almost wish that they said fuck it and just moved Kross up?
No, I'm okay with him being in NXT. But I am getting a little bit worried that, like you said, if they've exhausted Ciampa, and if Gargano really has nowhere to go at this point, and if Dream can't challenge for the title,
Their
and if
core
Cole
guys are
has
exhausted.
nobody who can really challenge him for the most part, then what do you do? Do you move people from Raw or SmackDown over to NXT to kind of compensate?
I don't want to see that, quite frankly.
I don't even know who they would move. Like, that's another one of the questions, because I'm looking at like the Raw roster right now, and I'm like, what do? Do you say like, okay, we'll move Dijakovic and we'll move Dream, and Gargano, and we'll put them on Raw, and instead we'll put I don't know, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe when he can wrestle again. Like I don't know who really fits in some of those things.
Yeah, it's NXT's in a very weird place right now where, as good as they are, like, I loved the show, but I'm worried about where they go. And I don't usually have that concern with NXT.
One place that you should go is to the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble. Check out the different designs and the different merchandise options for Smark Out Moment, A Mango Tees, and Fanboys Anonymous. And that plug's quickly out of the way.
You can also order them via phone by calling 1-900-MANGO-91. Isn't that right, Tony?
Might be that. Some other kind of 900 number. I don't know. I'll just pull a Rocco and be like, oh, baby, oh, baby. Well, here's where I get salty. It's the NXT Women's Championship Triple Threat match. Charlotte Flair went in as champion, and she did not leave as champion because Rhea Ripley took a pinfall from Io Shirai after Shirai did a moonsault where she landed on Ripley's head.
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Couple things here. Great match.
I wasn't feeling it.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was cool that the women got to headline, and it didn't feel out of place. Like, I'm sorry, I come from that era, so like it's still cool to me that like the women are so good that they can just headline. And I hated the ending of this match. I literally said in our group chat, there's no way they do a Charlotte Flair reign on NXT in front of nobody. And sure enough, they did. And not only did they not put it back on Ripley and just retcon it like WrestleMania didn't happen, but they went with Io Shirai because, don't get me wrong, she's very deserving. I'm not going to say she's not. But is Ripley another one that gets called up? I know I keep going there, but like, some of these people you've just exhausted.
This whole thing just reeks to me of when Jeff Hardy was feuding with Triple H and they didn't want Jeff Hardy to beat Triple H. So they had a triple threat and they had Edge in there. Edge was the champion and they had Jeff Hardy pin Edge. Actually, no, I don't think that Edge was the champion at the time. I'm not entirely sure. But the point being, though,
Edge was the champion.
It ended up being that Hardy had to beat Edge to get the championship from Triple H, essentially.
He fought Triple H the whole year, couldn't do it, and then he ends up finally pinning Edge.
But that's so stupid to me because there's, positive side of things, Io Shirai wins the title. Cool, Io Shirai's good. However, she didn't need to pin Ripley. She should have pinned Flair. It should have been a singles match. It probably shouldn't have happened to begin with because Rhea Ripley should have never lost the title to Flair to begin with. Flair did not help the ratings for NXT at all. She, at this point, clearly didn't help Rhea Ripley because Ripley just made herself look like a punk at WrestleMania and then couldn't win the title back again and took the pin.
Took the loss, yeah.
So now, is this just their means of getting the belt off of Flair so that Ripley can beat Shirai for the title? And then that way, like, oh, hey, Rhea Ripley got her a modicum of revenge. She's a champion again. And it's like, oh, so you avoided Flair losing.
So small monkey wrench in this one that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt for. Becky Lynch got pregnant. Maybe they're like, I think we're going to need Charlotte to focus in on Raw. And we might even need Rhea Ripley on Raw or SmackDown because we need to fix these women's divisions. Because as we've already discussed, Bayley is doing the SmackDown tag title thing because there's no singles challenger for her. And God forbid it's not Sasha. They might want it to be Ripley.
But see, here's where I get to where if we're like sitting around a conference table at WWE creative meeting and somebody says we need Flair and Ripley to be up on the main roster to compensate for Becky, then I go, number one, whose fault is that you have nobody already on the main roster to work with? If you've got nobody on Raw to fill in the blank for Becky, you've done a piss poor job with the people on Raw. If you've got nobody for Bayley to challenge, maybe Bayley shouldn't have been champion for an entire year. That's their fault, not Becky's. And then, okay, even ignoring that, you bring up the idea of like bringing Flair and Ripley in to kind of compensate for it, and then go, okay, well then don't have Ripley take the pin. Like, that doesn't do her any good to bring her up to make her seem stronger. Instead, I would offer the suggestion, Flair fights Io Shirai, Ripley comes out and costs Flair the match.
Or counter suggestion, Flair can eat the fucking pin. She's at that level already.
Yeah, she could just lose.
Where nobody's gonna think any less of her. You know?
They said it today. She had 66 championship matches.
In what, the last year?
It seems like
it. Real talk. The Shayna Baszler Rhea Ripley feud seems like 3 years ago, doesn't it?
It really does. And it seems like nobody got anything good out of that, right?
It was less. Was it even 6 months ago? It was about that.
It was just a little over 6 months ago because it was the very, very tail end of December. It was like December 28th or something like that.
Yeah, like that seems like it was a long time ago for everybody involved.
And that was like, we build up Rhea Ripley so she could be the one that...
And that was built up beautifully.
Yeah, that was great. And Shayna Baszler was champion outside of a little bit of time that it was on Kairi Sane. Champion for a long, long time. So it was like, okay, let's build up somebody, and then we'll build up somebody to beat that person, and then they can actually have like a good transition. And then within the span of the next couple of months, Shayna Baszler doesn't matter all that much, and Rhea Ripley's a piece of shit. And then it's like, okay, great. So now we have Charlotte as champion, and she's popping up on SmackDown and on Raw, because who cares? And the person that you built up all these years on NXT failed. So she's just on Raw. Who cares? And the person that you built up to be the one that beats the one that you built up, she just lost at WrestleMania. So who cares? It's like, oh my God, why are you shooting yourself in the foot? Like,
I know it sounds like we're bitching to anybody listening, but like, this one was weird to me, and that's coming as somebody who likes Io, and who's like, dude, Joshi wrestling right now, on fire, Asuka's champ, Hikaru Shida champ, Io Shirai champ. I like that. Look at all this, Japanese women's wrestling finally taking center stage, but fuck, NXT looks like a mess from a booking standpoint. As fun as this show was, do not get me wrong, I had a blast. Perfect length, perfect everything. I don't know where they go on Wednesday night.
I also don't know who, other than Rhea Ripley, is the one that can start challenging Io Shirai. And if they do just transition it back to Rhea Ripley, then they very clearly went out of their way just to make sure that Flair didn't lose it.
Because Bianca's on Raw too, and what's that doing?
Bianca hasn't done anything on Raw. They haven't been building up Casey Catanzaro. They haven't built up Kaden Carter. Mercedes Martinez is more of a heel, and she is not popping up on anything. She hasn't wrestled since February, I think.
The pandemic.
Aaliyah is a heel, and she loses all of her matches. Chelsea Green's a heel, and she's going over to Raw. Dakota Kai is a heel. Raquel Gonzalez is a heel. I guess maybe either Tegan Knox or Mia Yim, because it's not going to be Xia Li. It's not going to be Santana Garrett. Like, maybe Shotzi?
Do you remember when it was on After the Bell, but Corey Graves reveals that...
I stopped watching, listening to After the Bell, and even the New Day's podcast, for that matter. Too many things to keep track of these days.
Well, Corey's like, yeah, I was there when Vince was basically like, we need your whole women's division. And he's like, well, can you leave me Asuka? I'll build around Asuka. I wonder if this is another one of those situations.
Where they're going to take up Chelsea and Ripley, and Flair's going to go back, and...
Mm-hmm. And by the way, just because I have to say this, because the world is a little on edge, no, I'm not saying that Triple H is choosing to tentpole around another Japanese female. I'm saying maybe Io was the compromise, because Raw's going to need Flair back full time. SmackDown's going to need Ripley, if not Raw as well. They're getting Chelsea. Who really knows? I would argue, go ahead and ship Bianca right back over to NXT, because you've already turned that into she's just another name, she's just another face, and damn it, Bianca Belair deserves more than that. For that matter, Rhea Ripley deserves more than what's happened the last 2 months.
And they've really screwed Ripley over, and they do that. Like, it's happened with Braun Strowman. It's happened with, so many different people. Anytime that somebody actually starts getting over the way that they want them to, it's almost like, well, god damn it, the fans are actually cheering for this person. We gotta turn that around.
But as soon as they do it, this is my thing. I think they think they're like, all right, we're sold. Ripley's over, and she'll be over forever.
Mistake if that's the case, because they didn't learn from the past bunch of things. The only person who's been infallible in that way has been Daniel Bryan.
And they tried.
They tried to push that down too, and that's just, they succeeded despite their own efforts, is essentially what happened. These times, they're failing because of their own efforts. So it's a shame to see, because it's like, Flair could have taken the pin here. Shirai probably should not have been champion. Ripley shouldn't have been even in the match.
Yep.
So that's disappointing. It's a good thing that Io Shirai wins, but she certainly shouldn't have won this match in the way that she did. So that puts a sour note on the whole thing. Because then I'm like, god damn it. But at the same time, hey, it's fun we got in your house.
It's just so... It's so bizarre to me. I'm sorry. Like, why are you throwing the NXT thing to the wind when NXT was infallible? And I said this on the predictions podcast. For a long time, they were infallible, and they no longer feel infallible to me.
Yeah, I agree. They're still the better show out of everything, but there's a lot of cracks.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does not feel like this flawless experience. The only thing I will say is, and I jokingly told somebody to ask Triple H this. I was like, would you trade your whole roster for Adam Cole? Because I think, like, Adam Cole is that good. Can we agree on that?
He's great. Yeah.
Road Dogg said if he was the size of Killer Kross, he'd be Universal Champion. And I have to agree with that, because Adam Cole is just can't miss as a performer.
Didn't have the best match tonight, but that's not his fault, because this was not a match that was built around these two guys.
I'm excited to see NXT get back on track. I'm excited for more than any other brand of wrestling. Ring of Honor, TNA, AEW, even New Japan, hell. I'm excited to see NXT in front of an audience again. They need that vibe.
I'm a little worried now with the way that Flair won the title, Shirai is now champion, this is happening, that whatever, that kind of stuff. I'm getting a little bit worried that their philosophy with NXT right now during the pandemic and with losing the ratings wars against AEW is that their philosophy for NXT is, let's just try out stuff.
Which isn't fair, because NXT, again,
had needed the least amount of tinkering. It was succeeding as it was, and I feel like that's their playground a little bit, and it's hurting some people in the long run.
It's shitty, man.
But I'm glad we got in your house. I'm glad that some of the things...
I hope you're glad that we got in your house, because if not, this is a little weird.
Yeah. Well, I didn't turn the alarm on or something. I really have nothing else to say. Anything else that we didn't talk about that I'm missing?
Nothing that we didn't talk about, but I just want to reiterate. Yes to Todd Pettengill.
Very much so. Highlight of the night, the house. Except for the fact that when Shirai got put through it, it made no sound or anything.
Well, yeah, because you could see it was just like the screen.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
do this again, please.
I'd like to see this be a regular type thing.
Yeah, do it in June. Do it every June. Should be in your house. I liked it. I liked the show. It's just I'm so disconnected with the brand, and I feel like that's the best phrase to use for me.
I liked the first 3 matches the best out of the card, and I'm very confused about the future. And the ending was that should not have been the ending at all. So we got streamers and stuff, but despite that being a moment where it should have been like, wow, yay, this is great, it was more me being like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, kind of thing. So
I just told, like, I was kind of shocked, as in, like, Shirai, really now, right now, like, how many shots did she get at this belt with even Ripley and Baszler, like, now? But I guess now is the time.
Now is at least the time for us to tell you to drop your comments below and tell us your thoughts, because that's
Get the hell out of my house.
Yeah. Get off my lawn. I did most of my plugs. Go ahead and tell us out yours.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. I won't tell you my AOL screen name. You can try to find it. And you can check out Fightful. You can check out WrestleZone. Those are the 2 sites I work for. And Callum and I will be presenting the Paul Heyman SmackDown retrospective podcast coming this month to this very podcast stream.
And coming up next, as far as the main event for next week, is going to be the Backlash predictions and eventually the post-show for Backlash, because, hey, pay-per-views, they happen like every week now. It's practically the way that it is. So, if you enjoyed the Pay-Per-Viewpoint stuff, you got 2 more things coming up your way. Also, another edition of the hot tags, and whatever else happens, it happens. Just keep checking the Patreon, keep checking the Twitter account, keep checking the feed for Facebook, subscribe to all the different platforms all over the place, hit that little notification bell on YouTube and stuff, the way that you would do with pretty much everything else that's out there. You should probably know how these things work from other channels and other things. Just do the same stuff for us. And do the same thing for fanboysanonymous.com. Check out what I've got up on eWrestling News and on Bleacher Report, and anything else that I have, you'll find at Tony Mango on Facebook and Twitter. And that's just coming up next. But that's it as far as this podcast goes.
Oddly enough,
do we have a breaking news thing?
I don't know if I want to end it on this, but Gargano is apparently hurt.
Oh, that sucks.
Is specified.
Jeez.
Here's hoping for full recovery, because we just said we don't know where the future of NXT is.
That's another indication of just, come on. Well, that'll be potentially a hot tag to talk about this week if we get more information about that. So stay tuned for that too. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's just good news and we don't have to talk about that. But whenever that happens, we will see you then, everybody. For now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.